Hi everyone, and welcome back to TRI. My name is Derrick, and I specialize in the Humanities department, which means that I'll be doing lectures on things like history and different worldviews. Today we'll be talking about Judaism, both in terms of its religious and historical impact, as well as the way that affects how you view the world and what is right and wrong as well. So let's just get right to it. The reason why Judaism is such an interesting religion is that it provided the foundations, the basis of sorts, to many of the most prevalent and widespread religions today. For instance, Islam and Christianity are based on the origin stories of Judaism, and simply add more religious figures and slightly alter the principles in the time period after Judaism takes place. As such, these three religions are known as the Abrahamic religions because they all share the common prophet of Abraham, and they all have similar beliefs on who God is and who humans are. But today we'll be talking about Judaism specifically, so let's focus on that. Judaism's religious text is known as the Tanakh, which is divided into three key parts. The first is the Torah, which is written around the 6th century BCE, and which contains the founding stories and laws about Judaism. The Nevi'im, which contains stories about prophets and further commandments, and the Ketuvim, which consists of religious poetry and wisdom literature. Beyond these names though, it's very important to understand what Judaism is all about, because that allows us to understand the ideology of its believers. Judaism is a monotheistic religion, meaning that it worships one God, which is actually a very major shift from the time period, where many religions were polytheistic, meaning that these believers worship multiple gods. This distinction is actually a great way to see causation and effect in history as well. Judaism likely was influenced by Zoroastrianism, an ancient Persian religion that was founded between the 12th and 6th centuries BCE, and which upheld that there was a single God fighting against evil forces. Zoroastrianism taught that while humans had their own choice between good and evil, this God would ultimately prevail, which is actually a major theme in Judaism as well. In fact, Judaism then passes this concept on to Islam and Christianity, which were founded in the 33rd and 500 CE respectively. As such, you can see a really great trend in history where monotheism was actually passed on from religion to religion, and where you can actually see that each religion adopted some of the principles of the ones that preceded it. But Islam and Christianity don't just draw from Judaism in the sense of its monotheism. They also base their religions off of Judaism's origin stories as well. According to Judaism's origin stories, the single, all-powerful, all-seeing God created the world and humans in 6 days and then rested on the 7th, establishing the Jewish tradition of the Sabbath or Day of Rest. In this creation, the two original humans, Adam and Eve, lived in paradise but were kicked out as a result of sin or wrongdoing. This idea of sin is prevalent in all three of the Abrahamic religions, and they all have different interpretations of how it should be treated and what really constitutes it. After Judaism's creation story, the Torah talks about a variety of other tales, including famous ones like a worldwide flood and Noah's Ark, David and Goliath, Queen Esther saving the Israelites, and other stories that have been adopted by other religions as well. While I won't go into too much detail about each of these stories, the one that does bear in mind is the one about Abraham, who, if you recall, is the namesake of the three Abrahamic religions. According to believers in Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, Abraham is called on by the Jewish God to leave his home. The God of the Abrahamic religions then proceeds to tell Abraham that his descendants will become a great nation, which eventually becomes the Israelites. The cool thing about this religious story is that it's actually another great place to note the similarities between religions. As you learn about different worldviews, you'll find that a lot of religions are actually very related. For instance, Buddhism and Hinduism both share the belief in reincarnation, and Zoroastrianism and the Abrahamic religions all emphasize a fundamental fight between good and evil. In a similar way, understanding the story of Abraham is crucial to understanding not just the religious identity of people groups, but also their ethnic identity as well. This is because while Jews regard Abraham and his descendants through his son Isaac as the ancestors of the Jewish people, Muslims believe that his other son, Ishmael, was an ancestor of the Arabs and the Islamic prophet Muhammad. In addition, Christianity and Islam both draw from the Jewish idea of sin or wrongdoing. Each of these religions have different interpretations of what exactly this sin constitutes and how exactly they should try to change it. So let's talk about how Judaism does that. Jews believe that Abraham was given a special relationship with God known as the Covenant, meaning promise and commitment. According to Judaism, the Abrahamic God not only promised Abraham his descendants would become a great nation, but that he would also grant them protection and land, and in exchange, the Abrahamic God demanded the loyalty of the Jewish people. As a result of this, the religious Jews will follow certain commandments which they believe are the orders of God. For instance, in Jewish tradition, it is believed that there are 613 commandments from the Tanakh. An example of such a commandment is the Shabbat or Sabbath, which, on every Saturday, Jewish people will refrain from rigorous work and rest. This tradition is used to remember Judaism's creation story, in which Jews believe that the Abrahamic God created the universe in 6 days and rested on the 7th. This picture is actually a great way of summing up Judaism's theology. In it, you can see the Jewish prophet Moses holding a set of orders from the Abrahamic God known as the Ten Commandments, showing the part of the Jewish covenant where obedience to the Abrahamic God is so important. Jews believe that by obeying these commandments they can avoid sinning. However, they also believe that in the case that they do, there is a concept known as repentance, in which they express their regrets and ask the Abrahamic God for forgiveness. Okay, but you might ask, why does this all affect us? To an extent, understanding different worldviews is always relevant on two key levels. The first is the personal and conscious, right? For instance, understanding the role of commandments in Judaism can help us to understand why individuals might choose to keep kosher. For them, it's part of a sacred commitment, a personal bond between them and the Abrahamic God. This applies on a global scale as well. One of the factors behind the violence that is so prevalent in places like Jerusalem and the Middle East is that Jews, Muslims, and Christians all consider the city a holy site in their religions. Understanding the backstory behind such conflict is paramount to bridging divides. The second reason why understanding different religions is so important is because of how prevalent their themes are in everyday life. The idea of an eternal conflict between good and evil, which originates from religions like Judaism and Zoroastrianism, has made its way into public consciousness. For instance, if you think about Star Wars and how it frames the conflict between its protagonist and the dark side, it holds many parallels with Zoroastrianism and what it has to say about a fundamental struggle. Or take a look at the Harry Potter series, for instance, where there's a very clear-cut difference between what is considered good magic and bad magic. These are all as a result of how this idea of a binary system of right or wrong is present in religions like Zoroastrianism and Judaism. Overall, while we may very likely not agree with the stories within these religions, it's very important to understand the backstory behind the world around us in modern day society. Keeping this in mind can help us to gain greater context, which is something that is always worthy of pursuit. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice day, and make sure that you're subscribed for more great content.